and welcome back. U.S. History 1, we're going to talk about the English colonies today. So what does Henry VIII want more than anything else in the world? Henry VIII wants a son. Now, he is married to Catherine of Aragon. He's married to her for a little over 20 years, and she never produces a male heir. So what does he want to do? He wants to get divorced. What happens, though? Catholics don't divorce. So he decides to separate England from the Catholic Church and instead align it with the Church of England, which is an Anglican church. Now, Henry VIII will then marry Anne Boleyn. Anne Boleyn will famously be beheaded when she fails to produce him a male heir. Now, Jane Seymour is the next wife, and Jane Seymour will die, again, without producing a male heir. Then we have Anne of Cleves, right? So Anne of Cleves is his next divorcee, and then he will marry Catherine Howard. Again, Anne of Cleves does not produce a male heir either, so he divorces her. And then he marries Catherine Howard, and when she fails to produce a male heir, he will have her beheaded as well. And then finally, he will marry his sixth and final wife, Catherine Parr, who also does not provide him with a male heir, but she will outlive Henry VIII herself. So once Henry VIII passes, his heir, Mary I, will take over. Now, Mary is completely disgusted with her father and his behaviors. She hates what he did to her mother. She hates how he treated women. She thinks he's disgusting. And she wants to separate herself from anything having to do with her father's rule. So the first thing she does is reestablish the Catholic Church. Then she decides that she hates Protestants and starts burning them at the stake. So a lot of Protestants are going to flee and go into exile. Now, Elizabeth I will come to power after Mary I's death, and she's going to re-accept Protestantism, and all these exiled people will return. However, the Protestants are going to be split into two groups. One group of these Protestants that have returned are still sticking to the rigor of Calvinism and are a part of the Church of England. They're completely loyal to them. But then we have another group who are more separatists. They want to set up their own church. And these are the people who will set sail to North America and will become the Pilgrims who settle on Plymouth Island. Then Plymouth Rock, sorry, not Plymouth Island. They settle at Plymouth Rock. The next English colony that we're going to talk about is Roanoke. Now, Roanoke is a small colony that is basically the dream of, it's basically a colony because they want to see, how things can be set up. So what's going to happen in Roanoke is in 1585, a group of colonists will go to Roanoke. One of the founders, John White, will, it's going to be really rough. 1585 is this first colony. And they're not going to have a lot of success in 1585. People are going to start starving and things. So John White's going to go back to England. He's going to be like, you know what, let's take some more people and let's see if maybe we can have a bigger, more thriving colony if we bring a lot of people. So in 1587, he's going to return, and he returns with mostly soldiers and like their spouses. One of them is his own daughter, Elizabeth Dare, and she's pregnant at this time. And basically what's going to happen is they found this colony. This is the second group of settlers there, and they're on this island on the eastern coast of North America. Now, when John White will again have to leave to get additional resources, and when he leaves and goes to England this time, a whole bunch of stuff is going to happen, and it's going to take a while before he's able to return. When he gets back, he finds the island completely desolate. And when this island is completely desolate, he will, he basically returns, and it's desolate. All of the people are missing. And he finds this rock where there's information written on it in Elizabeth Dare's handwriting, and these are become known as the Dare Stones. Now, there have been a number of falsified archaeological pieces and things, but what did exist at that time were these original stones and the word Croatia carved into the tree. So that is it. So we don't know if these people became a part of a native culture, if they assimilated because they were dying, or what happened to them. There's a great little short video on them in your slideshow, in the part 2 slideshow that was posted for this week. So if you're interested in learning more, that video is pretty well done. The next colony is Jamestown. Now Jamestown is like the death trap of all English colonies. Summers are incredibly brutal in Jamestown, and the river becomes contaminated. So all the people start getting things like dysentery, typhoid fever, and malaria. And they're dying off. The first year, nearly every person who comes to Jamestown dies. Only 38 people remain. Now, Captain John Smith is going to make a deal with a Powhatan chief for their 10-year-old daughter, Pocahontas. Now, the first thing you have to do is forget that Disney film. The true story of Pocahontas is quite tragic. Pocahontas is a 10-year-old girl. She's actually kind of more kidnapped by John Smith, and she basically sacrifices herself. John Smith is like, hey, we need somebody to come with us. This 10-year-old little girl stands up and says, you know what? I will go for my people. Now, she doesn't marry John Smith, and there's no love story there. That would be quite disturbing, right? John Smith is in his 30s, and she is just 10 years old. What does happen is she basically goes along to help navigate relations between the English and the native peoples. Eventually, she will move to England, get married, and have a family. She sacrifices everything she's ever known to try to keep her tribe safe. Now, what happens after this is 700 more settlers will come to the colonies, and we're going to see some more failed crops, lots of starvation. Survivors are eating things like rats, horses, cats, and even boiling their boot leather to eat because they are starving. When people die in these communities in Jamestown, some colonists even resort to becoming cannibalists. By 1909 and 1910, we only see about 60 colonists remain. Remember, the first year we were down to 38, then they brought 700 more, so that's 738 people. Now we're down to just 60 again. Colonial life is going to be incredibly hard. You have to do a bunch of labor. Some people come over as indentured servants. Most times, a lot of times, more times than not, they are going to be worked to death in the tobacco fields. Disease is also hitting these colonies rampant. And indentured servants have no chance to withstand disease because they're not treated properly. These indentured servants are going to have the hardest lives, lots of illnesses, lots of disease. They rarely get enough food. Really, their quality of life is awful. And we're going to see more men than women and children come over as indentured servants. And this is going to leave us to our next topic, which is African slavery coming to North America. They need people to work, and their indentured servants are dying off. We'll be back soon.